How's it going, everyone? It is Thursday, July 11th, 2024. Let's get into the picks from yesterday's video. I'm going to start off with AMD. So yesterday, I said if AMD can get through this level right here, I kind of called out this high at 1050, then we have a nice potential long setting up. We really couldn't quite advance. We got a little poke through here at 1240, and then we immediately kind of fell back in over here. So nothing crazy on AMD. This should have been a no trade. Just couldn't quite get off the deck, especially when the market was rallying quite a bit yesterday. So AMD is a no trade. Let's take a look at Win. We had Win short. Bit of a bounce today. Same thing with Win. So it was looking pretty nice. We had this compression here, and I said if we can get through this compression, that could be a pretty nice day trading short. We never quite got the confirmation through that level. You can see how we tested that level the whole day. It was looking really weak, and the market was strong, but just didn't have the tailwind to get through it. And now we got the bounce here on the D1, potentially a short covering bounce all the way up to the 8 EMA, and then has rejected off that level. So another no trade on Win. AMGN was a trade that you could have entered. And here was the key. We got this little pullback over here. Got a little breakout as well over here. But you kind of get in on this dip. We erase this long green candle here. We have a nice chance of going higher. We got some good volume coming in on this stock. You can see how we didn't give up a lot of the gains over here. We held a lot of the gains of this opening candle. Then we started to climb up higher. We come back, tested the prior breakout, move up higher, test the prior breakout, move up higher, and then we start to actually give away some of the gains over here. You can see that the stock has started to flatline for the past hour. So that is your clue to get out of the trade. So on this stock, again, you don't want to buy at the breakout, right? Because whenever it breaks out, it pulls back. You want to get closer to that 8 EMA and get closer to that strength off the 8 EMA, and you can get a really nice entry price on that stock. So Amgen was a nice win, continuing up today, even despite that the market is down. So we have some really strong strength coming into the stock, and it's breaking up a lot of technical levels over here. So there's certainly quite a bit of buying. It's a little bit out of the gate to swing. We certainly don't have the type of day where we want to take swing longs, but looking pretty decent today. So Amgen, pretty nice win. I'm just going to mark these on my log. All right. So let's take a look at what the market is doing today. We have quite a bearish trend day setting up on the market. So let's zoom out on the D1 first. We had CPI come out pre-market. So actually, before I go to the D1, let's look at the earnings after our reaction over here. Takes me back pretty far. So we had a pop up on the CPI. The CPI came in slightly cooler than expected. I believe it was minus, actually, let's look at the bulletin right here that I think Pete had laid out. Market SPY rallied in the use, don't chase, wait for support. We had a decline of 1% and we had an increase of 2% expected. Core CPI was up less than expected. So those are kind of the two main things. Some comments are saying that there's a lot of components to CPI that have come down quite a bit. It's just auto and shelter that have been keeping CPI propped up. So those have been coming down. And as a result, we've been seeing the CPI come down as well. So initial pre-market reaction was bullish, but then we kind of faded and we're pretty much right back where we started. If you look at the just no overnight chart on SPY, we opened very flat. So despite the positive CPI reaction, pretty flat. We had a little test up here, a little poke up here on volume. Then we got this bearish engulfing candle off the high of the day with a nice bullish or bearish 1 OP cross. So market sold off pretty strongly here. And then I was able to get in on a short at 10:30. So I'm going to walk through my short first, and then we're going to look at some picks that are setting up right now. So I liked Netflix quite a bit early in the morning. So here's a couple things that I saw on Netflix, and here's a couple things that was interesting on the market. So first, let's go to the market setup. That was interesting. So you can see that there's a lot of selling over here in the market. If you look at what's driving the selling down, we have QQQ, which is forming a bearish engulfing candle. But if you look at something like IWM, gap up and go, RSP, gap up and go, TLT, gap up and go. So a lot of divergences here, and it's really the mega cap tech that is bringing it down. I've been using this MAGS ETF. That's been very nice. See this long bearish engulfing candle on that ETF, and has been unable to get off the deck. So this is sort of an equal weighted section, or I think it's about roughly equal weighted section of all the MAG 7 stocks. So this has been a nice one to track. You can see how this has been trending up higher along with the market. So mega cap has been driving the move up higher, and today we've been seeing a lot of weakness. Let's take a look at our mega cap tech stocks over here. A lot of them are down quite a bit, right? They're all weak relative to SPY. Apple's looks like the strongest candidate right now. Apple not as bad. Microsoft took a little win on that earlier today. Google down a lot as well. Oh, coming in here. But the point is, a lot of mega cap tech stocks are pretty weak. So we know that tech is driving over, and tech is going to be rolling over. So we have some opportunity for some day trade shorts on stocks that are kind of rolling over and leading the charge down. Now, some of these stocks, their D1s are pretty strong. Like something like Google, where it's like, yeah, you can short this intraday. And this is a really nice move down, really steady price action on this guy. But these also be the first stocks that are going to lead the charge back up. So I liked a stock that had a little bit more weakness, which was Netflix. So Netflix is not mega cap tech, but what I liked about the stock is that it was stalling for the past 3 weeks or so. So the market stalled over here, rallying up higher, but Netflix couldn't quite get anything going. And it's very close to its all-time high. The all-time high is at 788. And this is all the way back from June of 2021. So we're very close to this all-time high of 701. Oh, slightly wrong address, of 701. And there's going to be some resistance there. So we have that resistance that we're leaning on. We're kind of through some of these major levels, and we have now a straight path down to the 50 SMA. We could even breach this 50 SMA, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But so I like this D1 setup on Netflix. It was good enough to day trade short, potentially even overnight swing, depending on how the market's looking. And then if we zoom in earlier, or not earlier, but earlier in the day on the M5 chart, in the first half an hour, the market was grinding up higher. In the first half an hour, we had a long red bearish engulfing candle on Netflix. Couldn't quite anything going, and then we got some follow-through selling earlier at 10:05. So once that was kind of the signal bar here, I missed this chunk of the move, and then it pulled back to that level right here, and I was able to get on Netflix at around 662, and I've been riding this trade down. I did take some partial gains here at 11:10. But my expectation, and before I get into this, my expectation is this. This is probably going to be a bearish trend day. And this is the setup I saw on Netflix at the time. So we had this pullback right here. There we go. It pulls back to the 8 EMA, and then it gets its next move lower. And it's just been kind of grinding lower the whole day. So I think the relative strength indicator is not as strong, but not a lot of stocks are as maybe weak to this market move down. There's some stocks are, and a lot of stocks are pretty strong. But Netflix has just been riding down pretty much this whole time. So I got in over here, still in the trade. Took partial profits around here for the simple fact that at 11:10, If we look at what happened in the market at 11:10, we got a little bit of a bounce, and we were getting a 1 OP bullish cross. So that's why I took some gains on Netflix, but ended up being, I guess, a bit of a mistake as the stock ended up continuing down more, and we had a pretty decent move down on SPY, and now SPY is starting to diverge over here, is unable to get off the deck. And that is a sign of weakness. This should have been a wimpy bounce, but instead, it is a compression at the low of the day, just hugging this level and unable to get really above it. So that is pretty weak for me. And as long as we continue to kind of chop around here, that is going to be pretty bearish. So how do we trade this? Well, I have an alert set at the bottom of this candle right here. There's some support coming in at 556.50. So if we can get through that level, then I think we have another path down. We are at we could probably have path down to the 8 EMA, which is at 554. We could also probably close through it and maybe even test this low at around 550. So I think that's kind of the next little support level right here at 550. I'm not sure if we're going to get that kind of move today. If it does happen, it'll probably happen later in the day. If the market can't get off the deck and this move starts to accelerate, you can see how we're getting some volume spikes coming in now over here. So, this is a pretty nice setup, but what stocks can we really trade here? Well, we don't want to get super bullish because this is a huge bearish divergence. So, don't want to get super bullish yet. We need to see a bounce higher and a double bottom before we take in some longs. But we also can't get super bearish right now until we actually get out of this congestion zone. So we have to be patient. And if you missed your entry earlier in the move, right, you wait for this to come up, and we have this bearish cross setting up over here. So this is looking good, but we just need the price action confirmation through this level. We got to get through this level. And if we can't get through that level, then you don't want to get short because this is a pretty big sign of buying, and we have to be cautious about that. All right, so what are some stocks that we can trade? So let's look at some mega cap tech. Let's see how they're doing. Let's see where some support resistance could come into play. Looks like we have something there on Amazon. It's compressing a little bit here. Meta is probably doing the same thing. Yeah, so you can see how a lot of the market's essentially just mirroring all these mega cap tech names. Tesla had some news, so it made a really big smackdown off of some news, but it looks like it hit this level, found some support at that level. So certainly not the most bearish. Let's see what we can find here. Let's see if there's anything that is on the relatively weak scanner. EL, perhaps a stock that has been kind of grinding down lower today. I liked EL because you can see we had a failed bounce, right? We had a failed bounce, and now the move is starting to accelerate down. We filled in the gap here. So I think, yeah, if it can get through its low of the day, I would not mind having EL as a short. So that is probably our best pick outside of Netflix, because I guess I'm already in Netflix, so I don't want to give that as a pick. EL is not bad. So we need a stock. It's going to be an interesting setup here. A stock that is strong earlier in the day, but now has gained some relative weakness. Okay, SPG, gap up over here. It's not really the best D1 chart. Let's see if we can find a decent D1 setup here. GS is going to have earnings. Don't want to trade that. Let's see if there's any weak D1s here that we can trade. We have Veil. Okay, Veil could be interesting if we can get through this gap, which looks like we're poking below it right now. Yeah, that is a nice setup on this stock. It's just not... What I don't love is it doesn't have the highest ATR, and it's already made a pretty big move today, so just from the stock characteristic perspective in terms of its price and its kind of movements, not as crazy about it. EL's looking like the best so far. Let's see what's relatively weak here. Okay, choppy stock, buy some trend lines. Also choppy on Confluent. You can see after it makes a big move, it kind of reverses back. Hitting this level here a couple times, so not bad. All right, I think this is a decent setup on Confluence. We had a pretty tall bounce, get smacked down over here, getting another bounce. He's getting smacked down over here, especially during the last two candles where the market has been up the last two candles. The stock has been coming down. So that's some nice short-term weakness. It is through this major resistance level around here, and it has some room until this low minus trend line has got a nice head of steam after this failed bounce right here. Yeah, so this is coming into play. We have to kind of escape it. We haven't quite escaped it. So I may go with Confluence today. So here's what I'd want to see to take Confluence short here. One, we have to, this is only going to be a day trade. I'm not going to be anything more than a day trade. I want the market to make a new low of the day, and I want the stock to make a new low of the day. So when that happens on Confluence, I will be interested in shorting that stock. If it doesn't happen, then no short setup. And this is important because we want to gauge any sort of market bounce. If the market bounce is pretty tall, we have to be more careful about shorting. If it's kind of meager, then we can feel more confident in shorting because we know that the trend isn't quite exhausted. The other bearish thing, by the way, is that we got this 1OP bullish cross here, but for most of this bullish cross, we actually haven't done too much. So we've actually exhausted a huge chunk of this bullish cycle going absolutely nowhere, and that itself is pretty bearish. All right, so that's going to be, I think, the pick of the day. I'm going to go with Confluence as a short. So let's add it to the YouTube picks as a day trade. And then the other one that I liked was EL. So let's give EL as well. If EL can get through its low of the day over here, and if the market starts to roll over on a 1OP bearish cross, then we can look at getting in on EL. Add that over here. And that's it. So it looks like now the market's getting a bit of a bounce. One thing that I've kept in track of that you can try is I have an LRSI cross on MAGs. So when that mega cap tech starts to rally, I know that the market is also starting to rally. So we're getting a pullback in the stock. I'm not sure if we're going to get quite a reversal or not. You can see how Netflix has not been responding at all to this bounce. So this is the type of weakness that I want to see. And once the market starts to stall and potentially start to roll over, that's when I'm going to short Netflix on the next move. So my advice here, there's going to be an opportunity setting up on this bounce on the short side. Gauge the strength of this bounce. Know that we are least likely to test the low of the day unless the bounce is very tall. And sellers will take one more shot. So that's it for today, everyone. I've been reminding myself to be sticky with these sort of trend days. We are in the bounce phase. It may last an hour or the next 90 minutes. So be sticky on these kind of days and know that you can get out at a double bottom. Thanks for watching, everyone. Let's take a look at how these stocks did in tomorrow's video.